It's not the worst weapon in the game. The Extinguisher isn't good ever since it was nerfed, and it's not really that useful. The flare gun does the exact same thing with no deploy penalty. Ever since the Extinguisher was nerfed in the Tough Break update, it's really not used anymore, unless you have a strange or an Australian one. People are still arguing about whether or not the nerf was needed in order to balance the game, but before we talk about anything else, can I just say, this weapon has the stupidest name. The name for Extinguisher comes from two words, axe and extinguish. Axe comes from the fact that it's an axe. Pretty straightforward. However, the tinguisher part is where the weapon loses me. Extinguish means to put out fires, which this weapon doesn't do. You could say it's a metaphor for extinguishing life, but one, I refuse to follow metaphors when it's not convenient, and two, extinguishing is already something the pyro does through air blasts. I give the Axtinguisher a dumb name out of 62. Thanks for watching. Bye. Wait, no, don't leave. We still need to talk about history. The Extinguisher was added during the Pyro update back in 2008, a year after the game came out. When the weapon was originally added, it did crit damage to players on fire and did less damage when they weren't. They then tweaked the Extinguisher during the Love and War update. The weapon would now deal mini crit damage from the front and full crit damage from behind to burning targets. However, when the Tough Break update came out, it changed the stats to 100% crit damage on burning targets, 33% damage penalty, a 20% slower attack speed, and a 75% slower deploy penalty, and no random crits. At this point, the Extinguisher has been nerfed into the ground. Even though half of Pyro's arsenal can be thrown into the do blank for crit or mini crit damage bucket, the Extinguisher is the most straightforward. Hit an enemy on fire and deal crit damage. Simple, right? Just like Snoop Dogg as a bee, this was designed for the fatal Puff and Sting. Hitting an enemy on fire deals 131 damage. The minus 33% damage penalty is fine. You go from dealing 65 to about 44. You shouldn't be using that when there are no enemies on fire, and it has no random crits, so it's balanced, right? Wrong. Though the past two stats are fine and would make the weapon good by themselves, the last two stats ruined the weapon. The minus 20% attack speed is a lesser of two evils, because most of the time you can drop your target in a single swing, so it almost turns the Pyro into a pick class. Assuming that you're within melee range, so that all the flamethrower particles hit, and assuming that the weapons have already been deployed, we can see how much damage each weapon does, excluding afterburn. The Extinguisher can kill a scout, engineer, and sniper in one swing, soldier, demoman, and medic in two swings, and a heavy in three. But it gets much harder as you try to take out a target with multiple swings, as the attack interval is longer than stock, and you'll be getting shot by the enemy team while you're trying to smack them. Where the Extinguisher really falls apart is when you include the plus 75% deploy time penalty. I've measured the deploy time of each of the weapons, and when you include the deploy time and the slower swing speed of the Extinguisher, it really shows how ineffective it is. The increased deploy time forces you to plan using this weapon in a bad way. Any class with more than 150 health simply takes too long to kill and will out-damage the Pyro. Any class with less than 150 health will just run away. The Extinguisher deploys in 0.875 seconds, and deploys and swings in 1.835 seconds. Normal weapons like the stock flamethrower and the fire axe deploy in 0.67 seconds, and deploy and swing, or shoot if it's a flamethrower, in 1.47 seconds. It does fine in terms of DPS when compared to the flamethrower, but it loses all the utility usage of the flamethrower. Requires you to hit all of your swings, and you lose your melee slot to a much better, more useful weapon. When the weapon works, it's like this.
お前はもう死んでいる。何?
When it doesn't, it's like this.
You're like a car crash in slow motion. It's like I'm watching you fly through a windshield.
The problem is, it turns the Pyro into a pick class. This is why it was nerfed. No one wants to fight a Pyro that can drop a med with a drop of a hat, but here's the issue. The Pyro should have the best melee weapons in the game because of his dependence on close range. For example, let's compare apples to slightly better, stronger apples. The Bushwalker. Now, why am I bringing up a sniper weapon in a Pyro video? Because the Bushwalker is the Extinguisher, but better. Granted, you need Girardi for the effect, but you also need fire for the Extinguisher. The Bushwalker deals critical damage to enemies drenched by the sniper's all-natural lemon Gatorade. Here's the problem. Why does the Sniper, a class that excels at long ranges, need a weapon that deals enough damage to kill all but two classes in one hit? It does 195 damage compared to the 131 damage of the Extinguisher. Man, I wish the Pyro update would come out. Anyway, this weapon blows. It's banned only in UGC 4v4, which I didn't know was a thing until I made this video, but allowed in all others. In summary, the Axtinguisher isn't great, and the name sucks. Now that the video's over, let's talk announcements. My Tip of the Hats video got 26 views, so I donated $30 to Tip of the Hats. I hope you all donate some extra fluff from your inventories as well. Thanks for watching. Bye.